Market, please. Not as bad as it was a few minutes ago. The Dow is down 313, the Nasdaq down 235. Jeff Seeker with us this Tuesday morning. Trump might declare a national housing emergency. That's fascinating. You're a housing guy. What would a housing emergency do for the housing industry?
Well, I mean, Stuart, not only do I support Trump declaring a national emergency, I actually think it's long overdue for a few reasons. The average median priced homes cannot be afforded by 75% of the population. That puts this economy in a very dire position. Now, I support a lot of what President Trump is doing, but if he really wants to declare victory, he's got to get this affordability issue resolved, and he has to restore the American dream. What a state of emergency will do is, I believe, it's going to put pressure on the Fed to lower rates.
Well, yeah, you get lower rates. You probably get lower mortgage rates. But what you really need is more housing being built.
Yeah.
Do we need more housing? I disagree with that. I don't know about that. I disagree. I don't know why everybody keeps saying that we need more housing being built. I don't think that we need to clear more forestry, that we need to be getting more swaths of land to build houses everywhere. I disagree with that. There are literally millions and millions of houses that's on the market right now. Why do you need, yep, you know about Tulip Mania. Why do you need more houses being built? No, you don't. The reason why the Trump administration, the only reason why the Trump administration would have or declare a housing emergency is so that he can put pressure on the Fed, so that he can lower interest rates, which would then make the banks happier, because then they'll give more deals so that more people can finance more houses. I don't know why the Fed is keeping the money locked up and why they're keeping interest rates high. Correct, it's not a supply issue, it's an affordability issue. Lower interest, Chris said lower interest doesn't do anything. It does. It makes money cheaper, which makes people want to borrow, which makes sure that the banks want to lend more, so that people can actually buy and afford the homes based off of the payments that they're trying to make, and 30-year fixed mortgages, so that they can go and finance more homes. That's exactly what lower interest does. It makes it available. It makes more borrowing available so that people can buy houses, which they would then people that have higher interest rates will refinance, and then they would go from there. Why wouldn't lower interest rates are always good?
I mean, the supply is going to solve a lot of this issue, because a lot of people look at real estate and housing and they say, well, prices are still high. That must mean that the market is good. No, the market is terrible because there's no liquidity. And even those people who've been starved out of the single family home market into the rental market, they're spending from 30 to 50% of their pay on rent.
Here we go. Let me go ahead and debunk this. In July 2025, the amount of homes available for sale in the U.S. stood at 2.1 million homes for sale, a 14% year-over-year increase according to Redfin. However, the Zillow report for the same period indicates a lower inventory of approximately 1.3 million homes for sale. Well, we're not talking about the Detroit area specifically, but yeah, it's. Let me see something. A 4.5-month supply at the current rate of sales, over 1.1 homes were actively listed. The number of unsold existing homes was 1.5 million. So why do they keep telling us? And then some estimates indicate that there's 2.1 million that's available. According to Redfin is saying that it's 2.1. Zillow was saying that it's 1.1. So if you have over 1 million homes for sale, do we have an inventory problem or do we have an affordability problem? Do we have an inventory problem or do we have an affordability problem? And a lifestyle problem. Because I will tell you that most people are doing more financing, they're doing more Klarnas, they're doing more, all of that type of stuff. And so people have a financing issue too. A lot of people's lifestyle factors into it. So when people say, oh, I can't afford this and I can't afford that, I always want to know what their lifestyle is before we start to deep dive into that.
That puts people like me who are a landlord, that puts me in a very difficult position because most of my tenants are one bad economic turn away from being late for their payments. So if they don't do something about it, the American dream will not be restored.
It's just so different from the way it was when I first came to America all those years ago. Completely different. Middle.
Let me go over to this real quick.
Let's take you out to Mike Emanuel with this report.
Our housing industry is good, but it could be phenomenal.
President Trump is putting the spotlight on housing. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says the president is considering a national housing emergency declaration in the fall to address high costs and low availability. There aren't many specifics available, but the White House is reportedly looking at standardizing local building and zoning codes and decreasing closing costs.
We're looking at what the president has available to him. This president understands real estate. He understands housing better than anybody. We will fix this housing market.
It comes as the president ramps up his war of words with Fed Chair Jerome Powell, claiming his reluctance to cut interest rates is making housing unaffordable.
We have this.
I told you that's what this was. I told you that's what this was.
Affordability crisis, and there are two ways to fix it.
And now they're using my terms. We have an affordability. Well, it's not my term, but it's the terms that I use on a regular basis. It's an affordability crisis. It has nothing to do with building more homes.
We're bending the curve on inflation, and then we can bring down prices.
But some conservatives are opposed.
Somebody said AD is a renter. AD is a renter. He doesn't, I guess he meant to say he doesn't like this. How do y'all know what my stuff is? How do you know? What do you know this? How do you know about this? Who's giving y'all this information about my life if it doesn't come from me? How would you know anything about what I got going on? Just curious. How would you know? How would anybody know what my strategies are about living life? How do y'all know anything about what it is that I got going on? That's all I'm asking. I'll tell you where the real issue is. The real issue is let me say, we got a lot of issues when it comes to housing. The main issue that everybody is not necessarily addressing, don't get frustrated, Ezreal. That's just the way that people do. They assume. The main issue, I'm going to tell you the honest to God truth. The main issue, for real, that's really happening in the market, from my perspective, is it's property taxes, bro. It's property taxes is crazy. Interest rates could be lower. Obviously, that would make the market move. Property taxes is a big problem, bro. It's a huge problem. And I will tell you, as a person that builds houses, because I build houses or whatever, I will tell you this, that the cost to build a house is pretty high. If you're doing it's, I ain't gonna say high. It's commensurate with whatever the market is. So the only way that you can really tackle this is interest rates. Because let's just say, for example, if it costs me all in, let's just throw a round number in there, $400,000 to build a house. because I'm doing it the right way. And the way that the market kind of got messed up is because you had all of these illegal migrants throwing up all of this trash. You know, I see houses that was built in the late 90s, early 2000s. They're trash. Some of the houses that was built right before the bubble in 2008, they're trash. The materials used was trash. They didn't insulate. If you look at some of the designs, it's trash. A lot of that stuff was garbage. And then they was using illegal migrants to throw that crap up so fast. And they was going out without inspections and stuff like that. And they was selling it at crazy prices. And we're still dealing with the fallout from that stuff. So I know that if I get a house, for example, that was built in the late 90s, early 2000s, then now I got to go in and probably strip everything and redo it. Now, if I'm building a house from scratch, you also got to take into consideration the cost of the land. Then you got to build it, right? And if you're paying people, the right way, paying the contractors, paying the concrete people, paying the excavators, paying the flooring people, and you're paying them, right? Because they want to get paid for their services also. You can't just cheap out. So now you have to sell the house for $450,000, $500,000 to even make it worth your while to even build a house. Otherwise, you got to cut corners and cut costs in order to make it worth your while to actually build these houses that people want to buy. And then you got the interest rates that are super high. So again, if you're talking about housing, it's not an inventory problem. It's a affordability problem. And you have to make a way for people to be able to afford these houses if you want to sell them and then sell the American dream. That's just the honest to God truth.
Using the emergency declaration.
And you're going to have to try to convince people to get smaller houses because everybody think that they supposed to have a 4-bedroom, 5-bathroom house now. If you are 65 years old, you good, but it got to be lower too. No, because it's a lot of 65, 70, 75-year-olds that's getting kicked out of their houses because they can't afford the property taxes no more. They can't afford the property taxes. So a lot of times people are either house poor, they trapped in a house that they bought because they can't afford to move. And honestly, that property tax stuff, that junk pissed me off. It aggravates me. Real talk. Most people feel like they deserve a 5-bedroom house.
The market needs to correct itself.
We want to encourage home ownership, but you got to have the housing out there. The housing stock is not growing fast enough. That's the bottom line here.
And Democrats who have made housing affordability a major issue say President Trump is just playing politics, hoping to appeal to more moderate voters ahead of the midterm elections.
Affordability is something that has to be applied across the board.
The president is also reportedly considering dropping tariffs on construction materials to bring down new home prices. In Washington, Mike Emanuel, Fox News.
All right. Thank you so much for that report. And of course, this coming in from Christian Daytalk as Trump speaking in the Oval Office, confirming what Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, told him yesterday, considering declaring this national emergency, saying we're, quote, thinking about doing that. Let's be joined right now by that Washington Examiner White House correspondent, Christian Daytalk. Thank you so much for joining us. You sat down with the Treasury Secretary at a diner in Virginia, and this potentially caught you by surprise. What would a national housing emergency look like? What are they proposing doing?
Well, this would be a first, Andy. And when I say I was surprised to hear those words come out of Scott Bessent's mouth, I really can't underscore. My jaw was on the ground. This is something we've heard about.
I agree, Rod.
Primarily from Democrats over the last 5 years in the post-COVID era, but there have.
I agree. And see, that is the thing, is because you can't control the market. Lower interest rates would cause prices to go up even more. So you wouldn't even realize the savings. You would just get into a bigger house that you can't even afford to maintain because the property taxes, the insurance, the utility costs, the repair costs, all of that stuff will go up along with it. You 100% wouldn't even see any kind of, you wouldn't see any cost benefit. That is 100% true. 100% true. Good one, Rod. I agree.
Been a growing number of Republicans who want the federal government to step in here. And I noted in that package, Steve Moore is up there. Traditionally, you'd think that conservatives like President Trump would naturally want the market to work out some of these kinks. But what we've seen through the president's first 7 months in office is that he is not necessarily adhering to conservative economic policy anymore. I mean, he's nationalizing parts of some of these big tech companies. Of course, the tariffs run directly in the face of free market economics. And on housing, he is, it does appear, be trying to take a page out of the Democrats' playbook. Now, is this about politics heading into the 2026 election? Or is this, a real honorific attempt at lowering costs?
That looks so old to me. I would gut that entire place. That looks so old.
For Americans, regardless of their party, in every swath of life. I don't really think.
See that house right there? That would have to be completely gutted and redone over. It would have to be completely gutted and redone.
We know yet, just because we don't specifically have these details. But when I spoke to Scott Bessent, all of the items that he was outlining, both on the supply and the demand side, not to mention the exorbitant cost of closing on a home, it does sound like they are serious about this, and they are trying to pull ideas from all walks of, the ideological spectrum as they are trying to tackle this massive crisis for American consumers.
Yeah.
I don't know, bro. It's so many factors that go into this in particular. I think that Trump's main focus right now is trying to get the Fed to lower interest rates. But lowering interest rates is not just relevant to housing. Lowering interest rates is relevant to business, is relevant to the interest rate that goes into cars. Eric D says some people like the old look, though. No, I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I don't believe it at all. I don't believe it at all. A lot of these places is trash. I don't think that we need more. I don't think we need to make Lennar and Pulte and all of those places richer by trying to build new housing. I think you let the market do what it do. You slowly start to lower interest rates because inflation is already tamped down, and then you let the market decide. And then the people just gonna have to make smarter decisions. So that's my opinion on it anyways.